Hi, I'm Dr. Angela McBurdy of DoctorFlute.com, and today's video is on why are professional flutes so expensive? Well, today I'm playing on a professional Powell flute. This is a sterling silver flute. It's a gorgeous instrument. And if you like what I'm playing on, you can do a flute trial through Flute Center, flutecenter.com. And if you use my code, DoctorFlute, DRFLUTE, you get a few perks on your flute trial. You'll get free shipping. You'll get a 10-day trial instead of a 7-day trial. You also get, when you purchase, an 18-month warranty on your instrument instead of a year, just a 12-month warranty. You get 10% off sheet music and free shipping for domestic purchases, so within the US. But this is a gorgeous instrument, and this is a professional model. Professionals play on professional model flutes. Okay, that just makes sense. And they are frightfully expensive. They can range from probably the lowest end, somewhere in the 10,000 range, and then depends on how much gold you want to put on, or platinum. You know, I've seen a $60,000 instrument. And so the prices just can go right up. And it all depends also on the price of silver and gold in the market today. That's going to affect your instrument. So one of the big reasons why professional flutes are so expensive is just the metal that they're made out of. It's going to be more pure metal, so it's this sterling silver or solid silver, and I think coin silver. Usually that's 0.925. I think coin silver is 0.9 amount of silver in the instrument. And that is going to make this more expensive. Now, the more silver you add, or gold, or the precious metals, the real metals, it's going to give you a different sound, and a sweeter sound, and a better sound. And then when you're talking about gold or platinum or silver, it's all going to be preference there. It's not going to be better or worse. It's just what is your preference for that. But the metal makes a difference. Now, your lower level flutes, especially your beginner flutes, are usually nickel, some type of nickel alloy, and then maybe a silver plating on top of that. And you can have that with your intermediate flutes, and then maybe they have a solid silver or sterling silver head joint with that plated body as well. But when you become, when you're buying a professional model flute, the whole thing is going to be solid silver or gold, if that's what you are looking at. Now, that's just going to make a difference in the sound. But there's other things that make this expensive. So one of the big reasons why, besides the metal that it's made out of, is the amount of personal hand touching on this instrument. They're called handmade instruments for a reason. They are handmade. Your intermediate flutes are factory made, but these instruments are in a factory. And there is a factory, they call the factory, but there's going to be a lot of handmade touches on this. And so your head joint is usually all hand cut and rolled. And anytime that you have craftsmen making your instrument and putting that personal touch and their expertise on it, you're going to be paying for that expertise. Now, if you're comparing a intermediate model flute to a professional model flute, you can think that that intermediate flute has a pretty good sound, and it does. The intermediate flutes they make today are really nice instruments. But something that you can't compare is the mechanism. The mechanism is so precise on these professional model flutes. You could feel it when you're running your fingers over it, the light weight that it needs to push down those keys. There's no comparison in the world to that touch. And when you're trying flutes, you want to say, what touch here fits the kind of touch you use normally on an instrument. So the precision that this mechanism is to move your fingers on is going to be something that also separates the intermediate flute from these professional model flutes. There's all these professional extras that you can have. A C-sharp trill, which this has, and soldered tone holes, which this one has. Soldered as opposed to drawn tone holes. Solder make it a little bit heavier, but it also makes it a little bit more expensive because there's more metal on your instrument. Another really important feature that we often don't talk about are the pads. So underneath your keys, those pads, and they can be very expensive too. When you're talking about professional model flutes, they make pads, the ones that they use, and depends on which brand you're looking at as to what type of pads they put on. But all those pads on a professional model flute are going to be fantastic, and how they seal is going to be fabulous. And you're not going to find that kind of precision, that sealing factor, as precise on your intermediate flutes as you do here. So those pads, that would be a whole nother video to talk about the pads and what makes those pads expensive, or what's a good pad, and what are Straubinger pads as compared to some other type of pads. Professional model flutes these days use a pinless mechanism as well. Don't want to go into the pinless mechanism, or I just know that it does make them a little bit more difficult to repair. You have to have a really good repair technician, and make sure you're sending these to a professional repair technician if you have a professional model flute. So these are all the features that are going to make a professional model flute be fabulous. Now, when you're trying them out, you are going to try them out and see, like, I would think it would be a great comparison if you're looking for a professional model flute, to take your intermediate flute and really compare them. Play one, then play the other, play one, play the other, and think about things as to what's the response time, and how easy is your third register, and what is the rich sound you can get in the low register. But something that I was just reading about and thought, oh, that's a really good way to compare, is how do you taper on this instrument? Tapering on this instrument is a dream. I think after playing this brand new and playing my professional model Haynes, I think my professional model Haynes needs to go to a technician and get a little bit more tightened up. I feel like it must be leaking. And there's nothing like playing a brand new instrument compared to yours for you to think, oh yes, that's why I'm struggling to get the tone I want. My pads might be leaking on my instrument, whereas these pads are going to be really precise. Now let's talk about head joints. So while they are handmade and they have a certain type of metal, there are different cuts of this lip plate. So also, your riser that attaches the lip plate to the head joint can be made of different metals. This particular one is solid silver, so it's there's no gold. The whole instrument has silver in it. But this cut of this head joint can be different, and you can try out different cuts of head joints on your professional model flute to see which one fits you best and which one has the best tone quality that you're looking for. It's going to affect your response time. Sometimes they make the head joints just a little bit, the response immediately might be a little delayed, and you have to warm up to that instrument, because then you're going to get the richness. And if you made it too easy for you to play, it just responded, you might not get the colors you're looking for. So beware of that when you're trying out professional model flutes. And just to go back to the extras that you can have on your instrument, this is a D-sharp roller, and it does make it easier to, if you have to go from, I'll say, an E flat to a low C, or you're going down to a B, rolling across that roller there that's right on the edge of this E flat key really does help you smoothly move to your low C. If you've ever had to go quickly from an E flat to, or just anything with your pinky down and down to that low C, it's tricky. Sometimes the level where this E flat key goes down to where you have to is too high, and it's just so clunky. That is just a beautiful movement right there. I can move back and forth. And then, you know, your splitting mechanism or your C sharp trill, all those are can be added. Now, you don't have to be, and it does add to the weight of the instrument, and that, you know, you do want to consider the weight. This is probably a tiny bit heavier than my flute, and I would consider that at, you know, not having hand problems, but I can't play as long with like a lot of technical stuff as I used to, and I would worry about too much weight on my hand. So it's not something I would go into lightly. I would really consider whether I need those extra keys, and is it worth the extra weight? So think about that too. But that all adds extra money. Those are all hundreds of dollars that get added if you add any of these things. The other thing is you can have this. This is an inline G, and this can be offset. They do make half offset Gs as well. I've always played inline, so I'm not going to mess with that now and have an offset G right here. But today's student, I always recommend they have offset G because apparently it's better for your hand. But since I've grown up with this inline G, I am not changing it at this point. So if you are thinking about a professional model flute and you are considering, is it worth the expense? It's definitely worth the expense. If you can afford it, a professional model flute, and you're playing a lot, or you want to play a lot, the professional model flute can't be compared to the intermediate. Now you can get a nice tone on the intermediate flutes, and you can put professional model head joints on your intermediate flute, and that really changes a lot, and it's a good economical way to make your intermediate flute sound better. But if you want all those extra parts of this, the precision of the keys and the pads that seal just so precisely, and the ability to tongue sharply and legato and taper and really get your high notes out, you want to try a professional model flute. It is a joy to play. So go to Flute Center and do your flute trials and use my code DoctorFlute. That's today's video.